Hello everyone and welcome to Puff Time, the time where I sit down, smoke a cigarette, kill my lungs, and talk to you about things on my mind. I've been doing anger. But in this part, I'm going to be talking about managing your anger. I'm going to go ahead and say this one may be a little longer, but I do want to pack this all into one video because these could all be looked at individually at a more in-depth way, but ultimately I think they all need to be packed into this one video just to compare them and contrast them. I will put annotations at the bottom if you want to skip ahead to a certain one, but I do recommend kind of hearing out all of them, because when I went through these and kind of checked off stuff that applied to me from them, I was surprised at some of them, because, you know, at first when I read the title of each section, I was like, that's not me. I might just skip over this section. But then I started kind of reading into it, and I was like, oh, that kind of is me. Wow. Okay then. If you are prone to anger or you have anger issues, managing your anger is very important. Admit that all angry expressions, good or bad, are the result of choices. Harmful anger I've been exposed to. And again, you don't have to comment these, you can just kind of think about them. But for me, the harmful anger I've been exposed to is my dad and my ex, a couple of my exes. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not even going to really elaborate, but just there have been some harmful people in my life, and those are a few of them. For me, it's been people, not necessarily things. I guess ultimately my destructive pattern of anger is also harmful. So when I get in like rage mode and destruction mode, that is harmful. So I guess I could say myself too. Although my world may not be stable, I can be stable in it. Just because your world isn't stable, and trust me, it's never going to be completely stable, doesn't mean that you have to be unstable. You can be stable in your world. You can. You can choose how you let things affect you. Whether or not you feel empowered enough to, or whether or not you feel like you're capable, you ultimately have that choice. It's not up to other people. So, here is a non-productive anger cycle. Now, I'm gonna like kind of draw it out in paint and post it, kind of up here, somewhere over here. But there's painful circumstances, angry emotion, effort to change environment, resistance by others, and increased confusion. And it kind of goes in a circle. So as you can see, as I've illustrated here, it's probably going to be a really bad drawing, but it's like an oval shape, and there it is, right there. Yeah, first there is a painful circumstance in the form of a message of devaluation, an unmet need, or an event counter to convictions. This painful circumstance leads to the angry emotion. If you have an unmet need, or if there's an event that just completely pisses you off, and it's painful, it hurts you, it'll lead to that anger, that way of expressing your anger. At this point, most people will respond to their anger by attempting to change their environment. For example, they'll try and convince others of their errors, they'll move to a different part of the house, or they'll plunge into a project to let off steam. Remember, you cannot change somebody else, but you can change yourself. So there's always that. Just remember that. You can't change other people. You just can't. No matter how hard you try, you can't reprogram somebody to think a certain way. You just can't do it. So please, please, please don't try that, and don't tire yourself out with that, because it's not possible. Trust me, I've learned the hard way, and I'm trying to save you a bunch of heartache, because it really hurts, and it's really hard to try and change people because you ultimately you cannot. You just can't. This isn't always wrong, but it can be risky because it doesn't guarantee anger relief. Instead, it can lead to increased friction in personal relationships, which increases the angry person's emotional confusion. So this is to the confusion. It's like if you try and convince somebody that they're wrong, it can lead to friction in the relationship. I mean, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you try and tell somebody they're wrong and you're friends with them, it's going to be awkward for a little while unless they're capable of letting go and you're capable of letting go. It's going to be a little awkward to talk to that person after you just blew up at each other over something. So, and this will take you back to the beginning of the cycle by creating an ongoing tendency towards painful intrusions. So the circle just continues, and you can get caught up in that circle. And sometimes that circle can be over a span of days or weeks or months if you hold grudges. But ultimately, you're caught in that loop, and it's hard to get out of it. By choosing to manage your anger, though, you can break this cycle. As endless as it may seem, if you choose to manage your anger in a better way, you can break it. You can break out of it. It's not like a time warp. Like, you don't get stuck in it. It's possible to break out. It's hard, but it's doable. The 5 ways to handle anger. Alright, this is where I'm going to put in the annotations. There's going to be 5 annotations, and you can click on them, and it'll take you to each topic when I start it. But like I said before, I recommend you at least sit through part of it just to see, because like I said, it surprised me. 1, suppression. 2, open aggression. 3, passive aggression. 4, assertiveness. Or 5, dropping it. Ooh. The first 3 tend to make it worse. The last 2 can ultimately lead to success. Suppressing anger. Many people hesitate to admit their own anger. When an anger-producing circumstance occurs, these people stoically put on a good front and pretend to feel no tension at all. Now at first, I'll admit, I thought, there is no way, I'm not like this. I'm very aggressive when I get angry. So I was like, no, I don't do that. I let people know when I'm angry. But then I started reading the ways that are possible to suppress anger, and I was surprised. So I wrote down the ways I suppress anger. Now these, like I said, these might not be for you. These might not be how you handle anger. 1, I am very image conscious. I don't like to let others know my problems. I don't like to let other people know when I'm not okay. I tend to put up the front. I will eventually let people know, and I've gotten better at letting people know. 2, I am rather reserved about sharing my problems or frustrations. I am. There's very few people that I will actually talk to about my problems, and when I do, I really, really, really have to trust you. It's not like I'm just going to tell everybody my issues and my problems and what's going on. It takes a little while. So, alright, 3. Resentful thinking is common for me, although many people would never suspect it. I can be a pretty resentful person. And like I said before in a previous video, I forgive but don't forget. But I don't forget. And for a while it may seem like I'm bitter towards you because of what you did to me. But in the end I will ultimately forgive you, but still I have that resentfulness. 4, I have suffered with physical complaints. Headaches, stomach problems, sleep irregularity. 5, there are times when I wonder if my opinions or preferences are really valid. There's a lot of times that I feel like, does anyone care about my opinion? Is anybody listening? And 6, sometimes I feel paralyzed when confronted by an unwanted situation. Ding, 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 hello, that's me. Sometimes I'll get in that point of paralysis where I just literally don't know what to say, what to do, so I just sit there just stewing in my own anger, just kind of, nope. So, I have a habit of repressing anger. This represents a type of emotional dishonesty in my relationships. It's true. it is, as much as I hate to admit it. Any friendship that I've ever had or have is there's some type of dishonesty. But I don't lie about things. You know, if you ask me something, I will tell you the truth, but emotional dishonesty, where have feelings but I don't share them sometimes because I don't want to negatively affect my friends or others, you know. Their suppressions of anger represents a feeling of personal defeat. I say there as in everyone, like people who suppress anger. I'm addressing that. It does. When I feel angry but I suppress it, when I feel any emotion but I suppress it, it is personal defeat. Because I'm like, I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to be an angry person. And it comes with a sense of denial also. Because it's like, nah, I'm not angry, I'm good. And it's straight up denial, but it's there. The anger is there. Sometimes it's not always clear as to why, but it's there, and you can't just ignore it, because when you do, it builds up. And then you explode like a volcano. And there's a question, when are you most inclined to suppress your expressions of anger? And I put always. Sometimes my anger is so intense that I choose to suppress it to protect people. I have this thing about being a protector, and I want to protect people from harm. And ultimately I feel that I could be a harm, so I suppress it. It does not go away on its own. It doesn't go away on its own. You have to deal with it. You have to. And, I mean, I'm still talking about ways to deal with your anger or managing your anger, but it doesn't just disappear. So suppression is obviously not a healthy way to deal with it. And it's going to build up so heavy inside of you that it overtakes you and it overpowers you, and then you can't control it. So there's suppression. And then there's open aggression. This includes explosiveness, rage, intimidation, and blame, but is not limited to these extreme forms of expression. It can also include bickering, criticism, griping, and sarcasm. 1. I can be blunt and forceful when someone does something to frustrate me. Yes, I can. 2. As I speak my convictions, my voice becomes increasingly louder. I have been called a yeller. I yell when I'm angry. 3. When something goes wrong, I focus so sharply on fixing the problem that I overlook others' feelings. And this kind of goes hand in hand with my voice getting louder. When I'm arguing with somebody or something's wrong, I get so focused on fixing it. I've got to fix this, that I just completely ignore everybody's feelings. And I get to the point where, like, I'm going to fix this, and whether or not you like it, I'm still going to put my foot down and I'm just going to fix, this is going to be fixed. And it's like, okay, it's good to want to fix a problem, but it's one thing to want to, and it's another thing to try and, like, shove it into somebody's face to try and fix it. Don't do that. 4. I have a history of bickering matches with family members. I think everyone does. Everyone has had, like, a little spat with their parents, whether or not, or family members. I don't have siblings, so I typically just reference my parents, but if you've got siblings, sibling rivalry, hello. So there's that. There's, you know, cousins, aunts, uncles, parents, grandparents. Everyone has their moments with their family or friends where they'll just go off and argue about stupid stuff, you know, and I'm guilty of it. 5. During verbal disagreements with someone, I tend to repeat myself over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I really do, and I get sarcastic with it too, you know. Now, growing up, I had a stuttering problem, so there's that. And when I get angry or flustered, or even when I get excited about stuff, I will stutter. And I'll get to the point where I'm so like, get it out, just get it out, Victoria, get it out. And I will just continuously repeat myself and just go until they get it. And typically if you've said it twice and the person is still in disagreement with you, usually they're not going to agree the third time, or the fourth, or the 18th. So, I don't know why I do it, but I do it. 6. I have a reputation for being strong-willed. My opinions matter, and I'm gonna tell you about them. 7, I tend to give advice when it isn't asked for. That's a problem I have. If somebody's going through something and they're not asking for my advice, but they're telling me about it, I'll jump the gun on telling them what I think they should do. And I've gotten better about that, but sometimes I tend to just kind of, oh hey, well, I think you should do this. And it's like, did I ask you? Well, no, but you should have, because, yeah. I have a problem with open aggression. I just like wrote that down at the bottom. I have a problem with open aggression. So number 3 is passive aggression. Now this one I didn't think I had. Passive aggressive people usually already have a habit of suppressing anger. So suppression and passive aggression go hand in hand. 1, when I'm frustrated, I become silent. Sometimes. I put that in parentheses. It's a sometimes thing for me, not always. Sometimes when I'm frustrated, I'll yell at you, or I'll get really loud. But sometimes when I'm frustrated, I will just... I have nothing more to say to you. It'll get to that point where I'm angry enough. 2, I am prone to sulk and pout. Yeah, I do that. 3, I procrastinate. Let me tell you, when I was in high school, I was that kid who was finishing their project in class, and I still procrastinate in my life. 4, when someone asks if I'm frustrated, I will lie and say, no, everything is fine, sarcastically. 5, there are times when I'm evasive so others won't bother me. That is me all over the place. I avoid people like they're contagious or something because I don't like social interaction. I have social anxiety disorder. So I'm very prone to becoming really anxious and really nervous around people that I don't know that well or I don't know at all. 6, I sometimes approach work half-heartedly. Well, not anymore because I don't have a job. But yeah, I was guilty of that. 7, when someone talks to me about my problems, I stare straight ahead, deliberately obstinate. Wow, that is me. I mean, I can't count... I don't have enough fingers and toes to count the amount of times that I was in an argument with somebody and they were telling me off and they were right and I was just like staring ahead like... Passive aggression will cause future tensions. This form is different from suppression because I know I'm angry. Suppression is denial of being angry. So there's the big difference. Like, passive aggression's like, yeah, I'm angry about it, but I'm going to keep quiet. And suppression is, no, I'm not. I'm not angry. I'm fine. And it's like, you lie to other people, and you're also lying to yourself, and you're trying to trick yourself into thinking you're not angry, when really you are. There are advantages to passive aggression, and a lot of people will argue that passive aggression is healthy. But here's my thing. You're still angry, whether you show it or not. It doesn't matter if they know you're angry, you're still angry, so it's still going to eat you alive inside, you know. So, and then there's assertive anger. This form can actually help relationships to grow. It represents a mark of personal maturity and stability. Assertiveness could mean pushy or abrasive. Because when most people think assertive, they think like negatively. Because I don't know. I think when people hear the word assertive, because when I used to hear the word assertive, I thought somebody who was pompous. That's the way that most people think of assertive, because they think, oh no, you think you're better than me, and you think you know it all, and not necessarily. If you do it in a healthy way, assertive is actually the better way to cope with anger than aggression or suppression. So, it should be done in a manner that keeps the door open for ongoing love. Not assertive like, I am the boss of you, and if you want to come to me about something in that kind of attitude, I don't think so. That's not the way assertiveness should be done. Assertiveness should be done like, hey, you kind of hurt my feelings. I'm going to put my foot down about that, not let you walk all over me, but you can still come to me, but just not in such an angry way, or not in such like a put down way. Be aware of your tone of voice. I underlined this like 3 times. Be aware of your tone of voice. Okay, you can be assertive, but when you get to the point where you're assertive like, hey, no, you're talking to them like they're an animal, like you're scolding them for something. Don't assert yourself that way. Assert yourself like in a softer tone, because people are going to listen to you if you're not screaming at them. Nobody wants to listen to somebody who's screaming. That's not how you talk to people. What's wrong with you? Assertiveness is not easy though. It's not, because it can turn into aggression. If you assert yourself too hard, you become aggressive. Alright, and the last one, number 5, this is the hardest one. This is the hardest one. Dropping anger. Now, I have yet to get to this point. I have yet to be able to do this. I've tried to get to where I've been assertive as opposed to a pushover versus aggressive, because I'm both. Because I do the first 3. The first 3 are all I knew before I started reading this and before I started going to therapy and stuff. And then assertiveness kind of came into the picture. Assertiveness is like that fine line between open aggression and passive aggression. But then there's dropping anger, which is completely irrelevant to all 4. Of the choices involving anger, the most difficult is to let it go. Dropping anger and letting it go. That's the same concept. Dropping your anger means you accept your inability to completely control circumstances and you recognize your personal limits. Like I said before, you cannot change people. You can't change people, and sometimes you can't even change circumstances. You have to recognize your personal limit. You are one person. Dropping anger means accepting the fact that anger management does not hinge on someone else's decision. It's all you. You're the only one that can manage your anger. Nobody else can. Just like you can't manage somebody else's anger. But here's why it's difficult for me. I feel like it hasn't been dealt with. That's why I can't really drop it. Because I feel like that's like just ignoring it. And I feel like it has to be dealt with, which is part of my open aggression. Like, I have to solve this problem. And that's part of that, and I'm kind of hung up on that, because it's like, what do you mean drop it? I haven't even dealt with it yet. So choosing to drop your anger is far different from suppressing it. Suppression is being fake about it. Grudges are an option. Did you know that? Grudges are not... You don't have to hold a grudge. Nobody is holding a gun to your head saying, hey, hate this person forever. Do it or I'll shoot. No, you don't have to hold a grudge. You can let it go. Warning! Now this is a big one. Sometimes the anger returns later. That's the only problem with dropping your anger, or dropping it, or letting it go. Sometimes it'll come back. And I've learned this. You have to remind yourself of your original decision to drop it. If it does come walking back into your life like, hey, what's up? I'm here again. Walk up in the club like, yo, what up? I'm back to piss you off again. You have to remember, hey, whoa, no, you can't come back in my life because I chose to drop it. So here's some suggestions to help you. Make yourself accountable to a friend that you trust. Choose to live in kindness and forgiveness only today. You don't have the ability to decide what your emotions will be in the future. But boom! The thing that would help me most in my anger would be this. Writing it out helps me. Talking it out, making videos like this to help other people kind of helps me. And remembering perfection doesn't exist. You will find that when your emotions become less mysterious and more familiar to you, they will stop controlling you. They will. Trust me on that. Let go of excessive dependencies so your anger management is inwardly directed rather than externally determined. Because if you become so dependent on people or things, and you depend on so many different things, people change. People are going to let you down. You can't be super dependent on everybody because they're not going to always be there. And make sure your anger management is inwardly directed rather than externally determined. You control your anger, not your environment. And that brings me to my other topic, which is shorter, so I'm just going to squeeze it in here. Self-inflicted anger. When most people try to determine reasons for their anger, they point to external pressures like work, their parents, their friends, relationships. He said, she said, I did, they looked at me like this, they told me this, they treated me like this. A lot of anger is self-inflicted. Though the environment may, in fact, present difficulties, okay? We're not sitting up here saying that life is easy, but we all have free will to manage our adult lives. It's on us. Some of us create anger by making poisonous choices. We're the ones who ultimately decide if we want to be friends with so-and-so, or if we want to talk to so-and-so, or if we want to do this, or if we want to do that. And we, in the back of our minds, know, like, hey, this could negatively affect me, but YOLO, that's why I hate YOLO. Stop. Emotionally, you are your own worst enemy. Yes, I know people can tear you down and people can make you feel like shit and it hurts and people are evil and blah blah blah. But you, emotionally, are your own worst enemy. You're the one who allows what affects you to affect you. And I'm talking to myself too. One function of anger is standing up for your needs. You may be working against yourself by ignoring your needs. So, see, anger has its functions, and like I just said, one of them is standing up for yourself. Sometimes it takes a little extra oomph to stand up for yourself, and that would be anger. If somebody's treating you like crap, just don't take it. Stand up to them and say, hey, what the hell, man? You can't treat me like that. You have to set your boundaries, and sometimes it takes anger, because sometimes people won't listen to you if you're all, can you do that? That kind of hurts me. It's like, what? I can't hear you over the sound of how big of a bully I am. Stand up for yourself. And do it with healthy anger. But if you ignore your needs, you're going to be working against yourself. That's that so far. And stay tuned for my next part, in which I will talk about other emotions that can influence anger. Until then, I'll catch you guys later.